Throughout the One Piece world, there are those born with an extraordinary power, the Haki of the Supreme King, also known as Conqueror's Haki. This rare ability has been displayed by some of the most formidable characters in the series, from the likes of Goldie Roger, Whitebeard, to Luffy and Zoro. But what about Sanji, one of the Straw Hat Pirates' strongest members and Luffy's wing? When we look back at the start of One Piece back in the East Blue, I think that Sanji has developed so much since then. And when we look at his growth in strength from learning how to use Haki and his Germa awakening, something that many have come to ask what advanced level of Haki he will achieve to use, and more specifically, if he is a conqueror who will awaken the Haki of the Supreme King. And I plan to do this video a little differently, as I plan to start off by letting you guys know that I think that based on the evidence we have right now, Sanji is not getting this form of Haki. But before we start, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a like down below. It greatly supports myself and future content to come. Now let's review what the Haki of the Supreme King actually is. A character with this kind of Haki has the nature to stand above others. Characters with this kind of Haki have the qualities of a king and the ability to rule like a king, and also have the ambition to lead others like a king. Just to clarify as well, this ability is something you are born with, but it can also be something inherited or something only you are born with within the family. Judge is not a conqueror, but they are royalty that conquered the North Blue in the past, so I won't be surprised if at least one of their ancestors within the bloodline had Conqueror's Haki, and I do think that Yamato could be an example for this case. Luffy and Zoro, however, are characters who have been shown to have expressed the ambition to be a king, as they aim to be the best at what they do. Luffy wanting to be the king of the pirates, and Zoro wanting to be the greatest swordsman ever. So that explains their cases, and also almost every confirmed conqueror we know of that wanted to be at the position for the top, such as Kaido, Roger, Big Mom, and way more. But there are also characters like Whitebeard and Oden, both of whom are conquerors, but are very different cases compared to who I just talked about. Whitebeard did not want to be a king or at the top at all. He just wanted to have a family. But the fact that he wanted a family is also a kingly ambition, at least in my opinion. And why? Because a true king considers his people as his family and aims to be the strongest and most dominant so that he can protect his family. And I think that Katakuri has a similar case as well. People don't always view Oden as someone who had any kingly ambitions, and I could never agree with that. Oden, being a man who set out to sea and in search of freedom from his own shackles, is something a king does too. And also, the heroic acts Oden did as a daimyo and in Wano are definitely the signs of a conqueror and a true king. This is the man who stood against Kaido as the people of Wano's only hope. Yamato also considers Oden as her idol, who also seeks freedom from her father Kaido. And she also saw inspiration from Oden's constant want to protect and be the guardian of Wano. She also chose to stay back just to protect Wano when she had no obligation to do so and could have gone out to sea. This heavily reminds me of Ace, as he too grew up in shackles due to the name of his father, Goldie Roger. This is also what a king of a country goes through if his father was an infamous king, and Ace had to rebuild his name to the world to prove his haters wrong and the value of his existence. Now, when we look at some of these guys I just talked about, like Whitebeard, Oden, and Ace, all of these characters are not considered to be kings or have kingly ambitions. Now, onto my case for Sanji not getting this form of Haki. Let's start off by going into his ambitions. As a child, Sanji loved cooking and was interested in finding the All Blue, a mythical sea which would have the best food ingredients from around the world, which is the true dream of a chef. Personally, I don't see this as a kingly ambition or the quality of a king in finding the All Blue. But back in Thriller Bark, Sanji did express the ambition of his to be feared by the Marines, which is for sure something that a king would want. Although this hasn't been a goal for Sanji that's been pursued in the same fashion as someone like Zoro, for example, as he is the only Straw Hat who is fixated on bounties. And it sucks because we just haven't seen him in the spotlight or being anywhere close to being the most feared by by the Marines so far. I mean, maybe this can be some sort of tease to Sanji's final fight in the series being like against a top tier Marine, but aside from that, there is nothing. So it's pretty clear from this that Sanji's all blue ambition does not represent the qualities of a king, but if we look into other qualities of Sanji that could match that of being a king, it would for sure be the fact that he is willing to accept death if it meant to let go of his own ideals, which is a step up from Zoro when he first joined the crew. So to be fair, Sanji does have the willpower and the resolve like that of a king. And if we take his gag scenes into account, it puts Sanji's odds way more against him. While I know a gag is not the most accurate way to judge a character, it still is a part of the character and we can't just change or ignore that. It's still something that's based on how they normally act. But to make things worse, Sanji even once compared his own ambition of finding the all blue straight up to lust, which is a clear sign of a failed king. I mean, I know it is a gag and it is exaggerated, which is very common in shonen manga, so I guess we can't generalize this to judge his own full personality. I mean, I think it's really just up to you at that point. Now, if you have been watching up to now, based on what we have gone over from this so far, there are certain requirements to be a conqueror. We have the character having to be born with it either by inheriting it or by their own potential. They need to have the qualities of a true king. They also should have a kingly ambition with the resolve and willpower to back it up. Now, even though Sanji does not have a kingly ambition, he does have some qualities of a king. And even though he couldn't have inherited it, considering that Judge is not a conqueror, he still could have been born with the potential. And another thing I want to address is, why would one of the wings of the Pirate King have this haki of the Supreme King to the advanced level even, and the other one does not have it at all? What you need to understand is the wings of the Pirate King is not about power levels, even if they are the two strongest in the crew. This title shows that they're the two best men of their captain, the future Pirate King. It's not a literal title or position for power scaling, but it shows that they do have an equal standing in the crew. Conquerors usually awaken their power in a stressful situation, usually when it is to protect someone, with the exception being Doflamingo and Yamato, who awakened it out of rage, vengeful spirit, and desperation. And we see how Zoro, Luffy, and Ace all awaken their power when they were fighting to protect someone. If Sanji does have a chance at getting this form of haki, I think that he should awaken it when he is struggling while trying to protect someone, most likely a woman and one on his crew. This would be a very fitting moment for his character as well. To end this off, Sanji does check most of the boxes and has at least one quality of a true king. He also carries strong willpower and resolve. His own moral code is a display of strong willpower while also having the resolve to sacrifice himself for his crew. But he does not have a kingly ambition. While some may say that a kingly ambition is not required to be a conqueror, the ambition to not be a king is not what kingly ambition means. There are characters who have the willpower but do not have the kingly ambition and are not conquerors. Kingly ambition means that a certain ambition or goal represents the quality of an actual king, and this is a crucial thing that Sanji lacks, preventing him from being the man you think he is, a conqueror.